All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Amazon Flex. You know those folks delivering Amazon packages all over the place?
Looping around in their cars, yeah.
We've got a ton of research here ready to uncover what it really takes to make it as a successful Amazon Flex driver. So whether you're thinking about trying this as a side hustle, or maybe you're just curious about the logistics of how those packages magically appear on your doorstep, this one's for you.
It's more than just driving around. There's a real art to maximizing your earnings with Amazon Flex.
Yeah, I bet. That's what I love about these deep
The
dives.
whole ecosystem.
Always more than meets the eye. So let's break it down, starting with independent contractor status. What's the deal with that?
Well, the big thing is the flexibility, right? Set your own hours, you choose your gigs, but that freedom comes with a bit of a catch. You're basically running your own mini business. So things like taxes and insurance are all on you.
Whoa, okay. So no cushy benefits package like a regular job, huh?
Exactly. No paid vacation, no health insurance. You trade those for the autonomy of choosing when and how much you work. And one thing people don't always realize until tax time is that you'll likely need to make quarterly estimated tax payments to avoid a big bill come April. Talking to a tax professional could be a good move to make sure you're doing everything right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You got to be savvy about deducting all those expenses, mileage, all that. Okay, so no benefits. Got it. But how does the actual work get divided up? What are these delivery blocks everyone talks about?
Delivery blocks are really at the core of how Amazon Flex works. Think of them like time slots, usually a couple of hours, where you're assigned pickups from an Amazon facility and then make the deliveries.
Ah, so you're not just endlessly on call waiting for a delivery to pop up. You choose blocks that fit your life interesting.
Exactly. And there are different types of blocks, too. You've got your standard Amazon.com blocks, which are usually packages going to houses. Then you've got Prime. Now, for those super speedy deliveries, often groceries or household items. And then there are Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods blocks just focusing on groceries. And some areas even have restaurant deliveries through Amazon Flex.
Wow, so many options. So I'm guessing the pay varies depending on what type of block you end up getting.
You got it. Each block has a set rate, but it can change depending on the length, the time of day, the demand, even your location. Pro tip, though, Prime. Now, Fresh and Whole Foods blocks often come with tips which can really boost your income.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the strategy here. But I bet getting those Prime blocks, no pun intended, is super competitive.
Oh, it's like a digital gold rush, honestly.
Right.
Drivers are constantly refreshing the app, trying to snatch the best blocks before they're gone.
Wow.
Some folks even have special tapping techniques to be faster.
That's wild. Talk about a need for speed. So is it all just luck, or are there ways to get a leg up in this whole block grabbing frenzy?
Well, having lightning-fast reflexes definitely doesn't hurt. But seriously, though, high-performing drivers, those with consistently good ratings, sometimes get access to what they call reserved offers. These are personalized block offers sent directly to them, kind of like a VIP pass to the best gigs.
I bet those are coveted. So let's say you've managed to snag one of those coveted blocks. Do you just blindly follow whatever the Amazon app tells you to do?
Well, the app does have turn-by-turn navigation, but the pros know that route optimization is key. A lot of drivers actually use the Flex app alongside other tools like Google Maps or Waze to find the absolute fastest routes, avoiding traffic and just shaving minutes off each delivery.
Smart move. Time is money, especially when you're paid per block and not by the hour. You know, I've even heard of some drivers having really elaborate systems for how they organize the packages in their car.
Oh yeah, that's another level of pro strategy. Some sort by stop number, some group by street or area, some even separate packages by size. It's all about being able to grab the right package instantly without having to dig through your whole car at every stop.
Ooh, that's really clever. So let's talk about those tips for a minute. We know they can be a big chunk of earnings for certain blocks. Are there any secret strategies to boost those tips besides, just being speedy and friendly?
Of course, little things can make a big difference. Like for restaurant deliveries, offering extra napkins or condiments can be a nice touch. And if you're doing grocery deliveries, offering to help carry them inside when it's safe and appropriate, of course, can go a long way.
Yeah, that's a great point about safety and boundaries. Definitely don't feel pressured to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. Speaking of pushing the limits, though, I know there's kind of a darker side to this whole block grabbing game. What about this botting thing I keep hearing about?
Botting, yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely the controversial side of Amazon Flex. Basically, it involves using software to automatically grab blocks way faster than any human could. But here's the thing. It's totally against Amazon's terms of service. Huge risk, potentially getting your account deactivated.
So definitely not something we endorse. What about legitimate ways to up your game, though?
Well, one tactic is what's called multi-warehousing. If your area has multiple Amazon facilities, you can position yourself strategically between them to increase your chances of catching blocks as they become available. Takes some planning, but is a completely legit way to boost your earnings.
That's smart. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Any final words of caution for aspiring flex drivers?
This is a hustle, but it's got to be sustainable. You got to prioritize your safety, take breaks to avoid burnout, and always log out of the app when you're done working. Mistakes happen, and forgetting to log out can lead to unwanted blocks or even penalties.
Great advice. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Talking to experienced flex drivers in your area can be super valuable. What are some of the things that have surprised you about this world as you've been researching it?
Honestly, the level of detail that goes into optimizing this gig is fascinating. It's like a game figuring out how to maximize efficiency and profit all within the rules. And it's constantly evolving, as Amazon expands and technology changes.
So there's always something new to learn. I love that. But before we get too caught up in all the strategy, let's take a step back and consider some of the potential pitfalls. After all, it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Right. One of the biggest challenges is definitely the inconsistent income. You're not guaranteed a certain number of blocks each week, and earnings can really swing up and down based on demand tips, even just how efficiently you deliver. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to be comfortable with a bit of risk and uncertainty. It's not like a regular paycheck where you know exactly what to expect.
Exactly. And you've got to be on top of managing your expenses, setting aside money for taxes, since it's not automatically deducted. Having a solid financial plan is essential. You don't want to be blindsided by a massive tax bill at the end of the year.
Oh, for sure. It's easy to get excited about the extra cash, but forgetting about Uncle Sam's Tut is a classic rookie mistake. And let's not forget about the wear and tear on your vehicle. All those miles add up quickly.
Absolutely. Gas maintenance, potential repairs.
Yeah.
You got to factor those costs into the equation.
It's easy to get caught up in the earning potential, but you need to be realistic about the expenses involved, too.
Right. It's all about weighing the pros and cons and deciding if this type of hustle really aligns with your lifestyle and your goals.
So let's talk about safety. I imagine being out on the road, especially at night, can be a little nerve-wracking. Have you come across any stories or tips about staying safe while doing Amazon Flex?
It's definitely something to be mindful of. A good rule of thumb is to always let someone know your route and your estimated return time before you start a delivery block. And be extra cautious when delivering to unfamiliar areas, especially late at night. If you ever feel uncomfortable for any reason, trust your gut and contact Amazon Flex support.
Yeah, common sense safety measures are always a good idea no matter what kind of gig work you're doing. Better safe than sorry.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of common sense, let's not forget about taking breaks. I know it can be tempting to push yourself to take on as many blocks as possible, but burnout is a real thing with this line of work.
Yeah, you need to listen to your body pace yourself. Exhaustion can lead to mistakes, which can affect your ratings and even your safety.
Exactly. It's all about finding a sustainable rhythm that allows you to earn money without sacrificing your well-being.
All right, so we've talked about a lot of the potential downsides, but let's not forget about the potential rewards, too. What are some of the things that really appeal to people about this gig?
Well, one of the biggest draws is definitely the flexibility. You're in control of your own schedule, choosing when and how much you work. This can be really appealing for people with other commitments, like students, parents, or folks juggling multiple jobs. It's like being your own boss.
You get to design your workday around your life. That's a level of autonomy that's pretty hard to beat.
Exactly. And it's not just about the schedule. It's also about that sense of independence that comes with being a gig worker. You're essentially running your own mini business, making your own decisions, and being responsible for your own success.
Yeah, and for some people, that entrepreneurial spirit is a huge motivator. And let's not forget about the potential to earn a good chunk of change, especially if you're strategic about it.
Right. While the income can be unpredictable, there's definitely a ceiling that can be broken. It's all about mastering the art of block selection, route, optimization, efficient delivery.
Plus, those tips can really add up, especially for those Prime Now Fresh and Whole Foods deliveries.
Absolutely. They can be a significant portion of your income.
So it seems like Amazon Flex can be a really great opportunity for folks who are self-motivated, organized, and willing to put in the effort.
Yeah, it's definitely not a passive income stream. You have to hustle, you have to be strategic, and you have to adapt to the ever-changing dynamics of the gig economy.
But for those who are up for the challenge, it can be a really rewarding and empowering way to earn money on your own terms.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the future of work, where flexibility and independence are becoming increasingly important to people.
And you know what else is fascinating? The impact this has on all of our daily lives. We're so used to getting our packages delivered quickly and conveniently, but we rarely think about the people behind those deliveries.
Yeah, it's easy to take it for granted, but there's a whole network of drivers out there working hard to make that magic happen. They're the unsung heroes of the e-commerce age.
Absolutely. And it's not just about packages anymore. With grocery delivery on the rise, Amazon Flex drivers are now playing a vital role in getting food to people's tables.
Exactly. They're becoming an integral part of our food supply chain, especially in urban areas.
So next time you see that familiar Amazon van pulling up, take a moment to appreciate the hard work and dedication of the driver behind the wheel. They're the face of Amazon, and they're playing a crucial role in shaping the future of how we shop and how we live.
I think you've summed it up perfectly.
So we've laid the groundwork here. We know the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the strategies involved. But here's the big question for you listening. Could you see yourself doing this? What aspects of Amazon Flex appeal to you, and what concerns you the most?
It's a question worth pondering. There's a lot to consider, and ultimately the decision comes down to your individual needs and priorities.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you the knowledge you need to start making an informed decision. You know the strategies for success and the potential pitfalls to avoid.
Knowledge is power. Now you have the power to decide if Amazon Flex is the right fit for you. And even if it's not, I hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the world of the gig economy and how it's changing the way we work.
Absolutely. And in our next segment, we'll be diving even deeper, sharing insider tips from experienced drivers, discussing advanced strategies for maximizing earnings, and exploring the controversial world of botting in more detail. Stay tuned. We're back ready to dig even deeper into Amazon Flex. We've talked about the big picture, but now I'm curious about the nitty-gritty. How do you actually become a Flex driver? Is the application process a breeze, or is it a total beast?
It's actually pretty straightforward. You can apply right through the Amazon Flex website or even through the driver app. They'll ask for the usual stuff, name, contact info, driver's license, details about your vehicle and insurance. Oh, and of course your social security number for those lovely taxes we talked about.
Sounds pretty standard so far. Anything surprising or tricky in the application that people should be aware of?
Not really. But there are a few key requirements. You generally have to be at least 21 years old, have a valid U.S. driver's license, and a qualifying vehicle. And that means a reliable car or van that meets Amazon's size requirements. And those can actually vary depending on the types of deliveries you're aiming for.
Right. You wouldn't want to show up with a tiny sports car to haul a bunch of furniture. What about the background check? Is it as intense as those for regular jobs?
Yeah, a background check is standard. They'll look into your driving record, criminal history. So if you've got any major violations or accidents, that could definitely affect your eligibility.
So honesty is the best policy there. No point in trying to hide anything. What happens after you submit the application, though? Is there some kind of training involved?
Yep, there's usually an onboarding process. This usually involves some online orientation and training materials. You'll learn about the Amazon Flex program, delivery procedures, driver expectations, using the app, handling packages, all those good details.
Speaking of the app, it sounds like that's the driver's main tool. Is it user-friendly, or are we talking like a total tech nightmare?
Honestly, it's pretty intuitive. It's your central hub for everything. Finding and accepting blocks, navigating scanning packages, confirming deliveries, tracking earnings, even contacting support. It's like having a virtual assistant guiding you through each step.
Oh, that's a relief. I was imagining some clunky, glitchy mess, but it sounds like they've put some effort into making it easy to use. So back to those delivery blocks. We know they can be pretty competitive. How does a driver actually go about grabbing the ones they want? Is there a system, or is it just a free-for-all?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, it can be quite the competition, especially during peak times or in areas with high demand. The most common way to get blocks is through what drivers call refreshing. Basically, they're refreshing the offer screen in the app, hoping to catch those blocks the second they become available.
So it's like a digital game of speed and reflexes. You snooze, you lose.
Pretty much. You need a quick trigger finger and a whole lot of patience. Some drivers even develop special tapping techniques to increase their speed. I've heard stories of people using multiple devices at once, but that seems a bit excessive.
Oh, wow. It sounds intense. Are there any other strategies to increase your chances of getting the blocks you want besides just being incredibly fast?
One thing that helps is learning the typical block release patterns in your area. The availability can vary depending on the location, time of day, even the day of the week. So if you can figure out those patterns, you'll be ready to pounce when those blocks drop.
It's like understanding the tides or the migration of birds. You need to know when and where they're most likely to appear.
Exactly. And there's another tactic that some drivers use called multi-warehousing. So if your area has several Amazon facilities, like a fulfillment center, a Prime Now hub, or a Whole Foods, you can actually position yourself strategically between them. That way you've got a bigger pool of potential blocks to choose from.
Smart. So you're not just limited to the blocks coming from one specific location. You've got options.
Right. And if you consistently deliver the goods, so to speak, good ratings, on-time deliveries, you might even start getting what they call reserved offers. These are special block offers sent directly to drivers with a proven track record.
Those are like the golden tickets, right? Guaranteed blocks without having to fight for them in the digital arena.
Exactly. It takes the stress out of constantly refreshing and competing because you know you've got some blocks lined up.
That must be a huge relief. Okay, let's say you've snagged a block, you've loaded up your car, and you're ready to roll. How much freedom do you have with the navigation? Do you have to strictly follow the app, or can you use your own judgment a little bit?
Well, the app does provide turn-by-turn directions, but savvy drivers know that it's not always perfect. It might not account for real-time traffic or suggest the most efficient route in every case.
So you can't just zone out and blindly follow the blue line. You got to use your brain.
Exactly. A lot of drivers actually use the Flex app alongside other navigation tools like Google Maps or Waze. That way they can double-check routes, get real-time traffic updates, and find alternate routes when needed.
It's like having a co-pilot to help you navigate the jungle of city streets. But what about those moments when things go wrong? You know, like a wrong address, a missing package, a customer who's not home. How do you deal with those unexpected hiccups?
That's where problem-solving skills come in handy. Whether it's an incorrect address or a locked building, you need to be resourceful and adaptable. You're essentially a mobile problem solver, figuring things out on the fly.
So it's not just about driving skills, it's about thinking on your feet and finding solutions. It sounds like you're constantly learning and adapting.
You are. Every delivery is a little different, and you never know what challenges you might encounter. But that's part of what makes it interesting.
Speaking of interesting, let's circle back to those tips. We know they can be a big deal, especially for certain block types. What are some strategies for maximizing those tips?
Well, the basics are key speed efficiency and a friendly attitude. Customers appreciate quick deliveries, packages handled with care, and a courteous interaction.
The foundations of good customer service, no matter what the industry.
Exactly. But there are little things you can do to go above and beyond. For example, if you're delivering groceries, offering to help carry the bags inside, especially if it's a big order or the customer seems to be struggling, that can really make a difference.
Yeah, those small gestures of helpfulness can go a long way.
They do. And for restaurant delivery, sometimes it's those extra touches, offering napkins, condiments, or utensils that can leave a positive impression and maybe even result in a bigger tip.
It's like anticipating what the customer might need before they even ask.
Exactly. You want to create a positive experience, even in something as seemingly simple as a delivery. But here's a crucial thing to remember. Never, ever explicitly ask for a tip.
Ah, yes, the golden rule of tipping. It can really backfire if you come across as pushy or entitled.
Right. Customers appreciate genuine helpfulness, not a sense of obligation. So just focus on providing excellent service, and the tips will usually follow.
Makes sense. All right, we've gone pretty deep on the delivery process itself, but now let's kind of flip the script. We've talked about the perks of Amazon Flex, but what about the potential downsides? What do aspiring drivers really need to be aware of before jumping in?
One of the biggest challenges is definitely the unpredictable nature of the work. As an independent contractor, you're not guaranteed a set number of hours or a consistent paycheck. Block availability can fluctuate, and your earnings can vary quite a bit from week to week. It's unlike a regular job where you know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, so it's not for those who crave stability and predictability in their income. You got to be okay with some level of uncertainty.
Right. And you need to be disciplined about managing your finances. Remember, you're responsible for setting aside money for taxes. They're not automatically deducted like they would be from a regular paycheck.
It's like running your own business in a way. You've got to be financially savvy and plan for those expenses that come with being an independent contractor.
Exactly. And speaking of expenses, let's not forget about insurance. Your personal car insurance policy might not actually cover you while you're doing deliveries for Amazon Flex, so you'll need to look into additional coverage like commercial auto insurance or a rideshare delivery endorsement.
That's a crucial detail that many people might overlook. You don't want to be caught without proper coverage in case of an accident or incident. It's all about protecting yourself. And while we're on the topic of protection, what about personal safety? It's got to be a concern when you're driving around, especially at night sometimes in unfamiliar areas.
It's definitely something to be aware of. A good practice is to always let someone know your route and your estimated return time before you head out. And trust your gut. If you ever feel unsafe for any reason, don't hesitate to contact Amazon Flex support.
Yeah, common sense and being proactive about safety are key. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about taking care of yourself, let's not forget about the importance of taking breaks. I know it can be tempting to try to squeeze in as many deliveries as possible, but burnout is a real risk with gig work.
Yeah, you got to pace yourself, listen to your body. Exhaustion can lead to mistakes, and mistakes can lead to problems down the line.
Exactly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Find a sustainable rhythm that allows you to earn money without burning yourself out.
Great advice. So we've explored the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the potential rewards, and the potential pitfalls of Amazon Flex. Now, I'm curious to hear your take on something we haven't really discussed directly, the ethical side of this gig.
Ah, yes, the ethics of the gig economy. That's a big topic, and it's one that's worth considering carefully.
For instance, some people might be concerned about the impact of gigs like Amazon Flex on traditional employment. Are these gigs creating more opportunities, or are they contributing to the decline of stable jobs with benefits?
That's a complex question, and it's one that economists and policymakers are really grappling with. There are arguments on both sides. Some people believe that gig work provides flexibility and opportunities that traditional employment just doesn't offer, while others worry that it's leading to a decline in job security and worker protections.
It's definitely something to think about. What about the treatment of workers, though? We've all heard stories about the challenges faced by gig workers, from inconsistent pay to a lack of benefits and protections. Do those concerns apply to Amazon Flex drivers as well?
There are definitely valid concerns about worker treatment within the gig economy as a whole. Amazon Flex drivers, like other gig workers, are classified as independent contractors, which means they don't have access to the same benefits and protections as traditional employees. There have been debates and legal challenges regarding this classification, and it's an ongoing conversation.
Right. It's important to be aware of these issues and to advocate for fair treatment and equitable working conditions for all workers, regardless of their employment status.
Absolutely. The gig economy is still evolving, and it's important to have these conversations and to really consider the implications for workers' rights and well-being.
And what about the environmental impact? With all those delivery vehicles on the road, some might argue that services like Amazon Flex contribute to traffic congestion and air pollution.
That's another valid point. The environmental footprint of e-commerce and delivery services is definitely something we need to consider. As consumers, we have a role to play in making choices that minimize our impact. And companies like Amazon are also exploring more sustainable delivery methods. It's an ongoing challenge, but one that requires a multifaceted approach.
So it's about being conscious consumers and making choices that align with our values.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our individual actions have an impact and that we can collectively contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future.
I love that perspective. It's not just about the individual gig, it's about the bigger picture.
Right. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just looking at Amazon Flex in isolation. We're exploring its place in this broader context of the changing nature of work, the ethics of the gig economy, and our collective responsibility to create a world where everyone can thrive.
Well said. It's about moving beyond the transactional and recognizing the human element in everything we do. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I really encourage you to think about what we've discussed. Is Amazon Flex something that aligns with your values and goals? What aspects of it appeal to you, and what concerns do you still have?
These are questions worth pondering. And as we move into our final segment, we'll be sharing insights from experienced Flex drivers. Delve into some advanced strategies for maximizing earnings, and even explore the controversial world of botting in more detail. Stay tuned.
All right, we're back for the final stretch of our Amazon Flex deep dive.
The home stretch.
We've talked about all the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ethical considerations. But now let's get down to the real nitty-gritty. How do you make the most money with this gig?
It's all about strategy. We're not just talking about grabbing any block that pops up. It's about being selective and maximizing your efficiency with every single delivery.
Okay, let's talk about that efficiency then. What are some of those insider tips seasoned Flex drivers use to really squeeze the most out of their time on the road?
Well, knowing your area like the back of your hand is absolutely crucial. The more familiar you are with the streets, the neighborhoods, the traffic patterns, the faster and more efficiently you can move.
So it's like having a mental map of your entire delivery zone.
Exactly. You can anticipate traffic, find shortcuts, avoid those time-wasting detours that really eat into your earnings.
And speaking of time saving, what about the actual delivery process itself? Any tricks to making those drop-offs super smooth and super quick?
Organizing your packages strategically before you even start driving is huge.
Yeah, I've heard about this, like sorting by stop number or grouping packages by street.
Exactly. Find a system that works for you. Some people arrange by stop order, others by street or neighborhood. The key is to be able to grab the right package instantly without having to dig through your whole car at every stop.
No more playing Tetris in the driveway, trying to find the right box. What about those apartment complexes, though? Those can be a real time suck if you don't know the layout.
Ah, yes, the dreaded apartment complexes. But you know there are ways to tame the beast. Familiarize yourself with the layouts of the ones you frequently visit. Know where the building entrances are, the mailrooms, the parking areas.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for all those confusing buildings.
Exactly. And pay really close attention to access codes or any special delivery instructions. You don't want to waste time buzzing every single apartment trying to find the right one.
Right, okay. So we've got
Yeah.
know your area, organize your packages, and master those apartment complex mazes. Any other pro tips for those super speedy deliveries?
Always double-check the delivery instructions before you head to the customer's door. Some people have very specific requests like leave it at the back door, ring the bell, hide it behind a plant, whatever it might be. You want to make absolutely sure you're following those instructions to a T.
Yeah, it's all about paying attention to those little details that show you care and can lead to those happy customers and better tips.
Precisely. All right, ready to wade into some slightly murky waters. Let's talk about botting.
Ooh, yes, the dark side of Amazon Flex. Remind us again, what exactly is botting?
Basically, it's using software to automatically grab delivery blocks way faster than any human possibly could. It might sound tempting, but let me tell you, it's a major violation of Amazon's terms of service. We're talking account deactivation, potentially even legal trouble.
So yeah, definitely not something we endorse, but I can kind of see the temptation, especially with such a competitive environment. What are some legitimate strategies to improve your block grabbing game?
Mastering the art of refreshing is key. It's all about constantly checking the app and having those lightning-fast reflexes to tap on those blocks the instant they appear.
It's like a high-stakes game of speed and accuracy.
It really is. And that multi-warehousing strategy we talked about before can also significantly increase your chances. By being strategic about your location, you're essentially widening your pool of potential blocks.
So it's all about maximizing your options. Are there any other factors that come into play when it comes to snagging those really good blocks?
You know, it might sound surprising, but building a good rapport with the warehouse staff can actually be quite helpful.
Really? So being friendly with the folks at the warehouse can give you an edge?
You know, it's not about expecting special treatment or anything like that, but being courteous, respectful, efficient can go a long way.
Yeah, it's just about being a decent human being, which is always a good policy in life.
Exactly. And you never know that friendly rapport might lead to a helpful tip or a heads up about upcoming block releases. It's all about building those connections.
Like the saying goes, you attract more bees with honey than with vinegar. Okay, so we've talked about relationship building, but are there any strategic times or locations that can increase your chances of getting those good blocks?
Absolutely. Understanding the ebb and flow of demand is key. Certain times of day, certain days of the week, even specific neighborhoods tend to have higher demand for deliveries.
So it's like knowing the best fishing spots and the ideal time to cast your line.
Exactly. If you can figure out those patterns, you can position yourself to be in the right place at the right time.
So it sounds like being a successful Amazon Flex driver is all about combining hustle strategy and a little bit of savvy.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about being proactive, resourceful, and adaptable in a constantly changing environment.
You know, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from the nitty-gritty of the application process to the controversial world of botting. But I want to zoom out for a minute. What are your final takeaways for our listeners who might be considering taking the plunge into the world of Amazon Flex?
My advice, go in with your eyes wide open. Understand the challenges and the rewards. Weigh the pros and cons and make an informed decision based on your own individual needs and goals.
It's not a magic bullet, but for the right person, it can be a really great opportunity to earn some extra income with a lot of flexibility.
Exactly. And never underestimate the power of knowledge. The more you understand about the ins and outs of this gig, the better equipped you'll be to navigate its complexities and really make it work for you.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Amazon Flex. We hope you found this exploration insightful and empowering. Whether you decide to become a Flex driver or not, you now have a much deeper understanding of this fascinating corner of the gig economy.
And maybe we've even sparked your curiosity about this broader landscape of the future of work and how technology is reshaping our lives. There's a whole world of possibilities out there.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.